All right, today we're tackling something pretty huge, a proposal for a brand new Indian constitution. And what's fascinating is that it claims the current system is fundamentally broken. The solution it offers? Well, it's this incredible mix of ideas from ancient Greek philosophy and deep-rooted Indian traditions. So let's just start with the big one, a really challenging question that the document we're looking at today puts right on the table. It basically asks us to look past the label of world's largest democracy and question what's really going on underneath. Is the way power actually works the same as what we're told it is? And this really gets to the heart of the argument from the source text, which is called the Real Constitution of Bharat. Get this. It claims that the big foundational words in India's preamble, secularism, socialism, democracy, are basically foreign ideas. It says they're just not connected to India's own, thousands of years of knowledge and tradition. It's a pretty bold claim.
Okay, so that really sets us up for our first big topic. We're going to dig into this core critique, the idea that India isn't really a republic or a democracy. So what is it then?
So the whole analysis really kicks off by looking at the words we use. Think about it. We celebrate Republic Day, but we call India the world's largest democracy. The document points out that these two words, republic and democracy, actually come from totally different Western political ideas. So the argument is, not only are we mixing them up, but maybe neither of them truly fits with India's own way of thinking about governance. All right, let's get to the real meat of this critique. If the system isn't a democracy, then what on earth is it? Well, the document we're looking at has a name for it, a diagnosis for the problem. And that name is partycracy. The idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's a powerful one. It argues that the real power isn't with the people or even with the politicians we elect. Nope. It says the power is with the political parties themselves, the party machine, and that machine's number one goal is just to stay in power and look after its own interests, not the nation's. And what's really fascinating here is how the document lists out the symptoms of this so-called particracy. We're talking about things like systemic self-interest, shaky coalition governments that can't agree on anything, policies that just pander to specific groups, and of course, corruption and a total erosion of trust. The argument is that these aren't just random, separate problems. They're all predictable side effects of a system where the party always comes first. So what's the end result of all this? Well, according to this analysis, it's a system where the average person feels totally left out. You cast your vote, and that's kind of it. You're on the sidelines while the whole system just keeps working for the powerful people already inside it. So if that's the diagnosis, what's the cure? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The author doesn't turn to modern political theories. Instead, they reach way, way back in time to an ancient Greek blueprint, Plato's Republic. Yeah, that's right, Plato. And the document doesn't treat his work like some dusty old history book. It presents the Republic as this timeless guide, a foundational text that can help us completely rethink how a state should be run, right from square one. And this slide just perfectly sums up Plato's whole big idea. He saw the ideal state as being structured just like a well-balanced person, like a human soul. You've got reason at the top, those are the wise rulers, the guardians. Then you have spirit, the courageous warriors who protect the state. And finally, appetite, the producers, the farmers, and artisans who keep everything running. For Plato, justice wasn't about a bunch of laws. It was about this perfect harmony where everyone does their job and doesn't try to do someone else's. And that, of course, leads us to his most famous idea, the philosopher king. And let's be clear, this isn't some king who likes to read books in his spare time. No, this is a ruler whose only qualification to rule is their deep wisdom and their absolute commitment to justice. It's about being the most qualified person for the job, not the most popular. Okay, so with that bit of Plato in our back pocket, let's see how the Real Constitution of Bharat tries to translate these ancient ideas into a brand new system for today. How does this all fit together? So the proposed structure is designed to work just like a thinking, acting person, very similar to that Platonic idea. So you have a presidential council, which is like the core identity, the soul of the nation. Then parliament acts as the brain, the intellect, doing the planning. State assemblies are like the collective consciousness, the heart. And finally, the executive branch, well, those are the hands, the part that actually gets things done. But here's a really crucial point. While the proposal uses Plato's framework as a kind of model, its philosophical heart is pure Indian tradition. The guiding principle isn't a Western ideal, it's Dharma. You know, that core concept of moral duty, of righteous conduct, that holds society together.
And this right here is the engine driving the whole thing. It's an ancient Indian philosophical principle, sometimes expressed as Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande, which basically means as is the microcosm, so is the macrocosm. Or, simply put, the nation, the big picture, should be structured just like a human being, the small picture. This is the logic behind that four-part state we just talked about. It's all about creating a natural, cosmic balance.
Now, this quote is where things get really radical. A system of control of the reason is therefore better than the rule of law. Whoa! What that's arguing is that it's better to be guided by the dynamic wisdom of enlightened leaders than by a fixed set of written laws. The logic is that laws can't account for every situation. They can be rigid, but true reason, it can always find the just answer. It's a huge departure from how we think about governance today. And if you thought that was a big change, check this out. The proposal includes something called a weighted franchise. This completely throws out the idea of one person, one vote. Instead, it suggests that votes should be weighted based on things like education, your contribution to society, even family responsibility. The idea is to give more of a say to citizens who are seen as more informed and engaged. Okay, let's put it all side by side now. We'll compare the principles of the current Constitution, as this document critiques them, with the brand new principles it wants to put in their place. And this table really lays it all out. It's a stark difference. Instead of secularism, you get patriotism as the primary religion. Instead of democracy through parties, you get the control of reason. The principle of equality is replaced by that weighted franchise based on merit. And liberty isn't absolute freedom, but a freedom that comes with duties, what it calls duty-bound freedom, or dharma. It's a fundamental shift, really, from a system focused on individual rights to one that prioritizes collective duty and social harmony. So what's the big takeaway here? I think it's that this proposal, as radical as it sounds, isn't coming out of nowhere. It's actually plugging into a conversation that's been going on for thousands of years, this timeless search for the best way to govern, for the perfect, just society. It's a dialogue between ancient Athens and modern India.
Which really leaves us with one final, massive question to chew on. What is the perfect blueprint for a just society? Is the answer buried in an ancient text like Plato's? Is it hidden somewhere in the messy reality we're living in right now?